So I'm out here in my workout space, just finished doing a lift and had a follower on my YouTube page ask me to make a video for them about how to handle or defend against different types of weapons. So that's what this video is about. Now I'm going to try to make this as simple and as easy as possible, and it's a complex topic with a lot of variables, so we're going to kind of categorize it into a way to understanding. This is for newer fighters or people trying to understand just the foundational basics of different types of weapons. I'm going to be talking in a melee sense here. I mean, how to handle different weapons in a duel. You're going to have matching weapons. Hopefully you know how to use a longsword and defending against a longsword. That's a whole different video, an area that I'm not as much of an expert on, but I do plenty of duels and things as well. And even in a pro fight, pro fights and night fights don't have to have matched weapons, but they often kind of do or come pretty close. But I think this would apply in pro fight mentality as well. But it's primarily melee. How do you address when different types of fighters and weapons are coming at you, right? For this situation, we would assume that all of the fighters are similar-ish size, similar-ish skill, because otherwise a lot of other things that we've got to talk about, right? So I'm going to categorize the weapons into three different main categories. The first one is short weapons, right? So this falchion falls into short weapon. This is one of my falchions, my melee falchion. I really like this thing, right? Short weapons would be a short falchion, a heavy falchion, melee falchion, a hand axe would fall into this, mace would fall into this. These are short weapons, right? These are typically less damaging weapons too than longer weapons. So we'll talk about those. Now, it doesn't mean I don't do any damage. This thing thunks. That's why I like this thing. It's got a good whap, and I've even one-shot someone, hit them once with this, and they sat down, so it's pretty awesome. But it's not typical with that weapon. So you're going to handle that much differently than the second category of weapon, which is going to be your kind of, we call it a short axe, but it's longer than a short weapon. So let's just call it your small two-hander, right? So a two-handed axe is the most common one in this category. You can see some like great swords, heavy falchion, heavy two-handed falchions might fall into this category. They could also fall into the next one, but it's usually going to be this category. So it's two-handed swords, two-handed axes that are short as a 3-foot axe. So it's anywhere from 3 to 4 feet falls into that short category, right? And then the third category is going to be your pole arm, right? Something much longer. So this can't fit in there. So it's your long axe, your pole arm, your glaive, anything that's long. Those are the same categories, right? So they're long weapons, and you're going to handle them very differently. So let's start with the long weapon, because I think it's the easiest to explain. The advantage of this long weapon: reach, right? I can get way back and throw shots. Power, I have a lot more power with the longer weapon if it lands on contact. So this is a weapon that if I can get you fighting me one-on-one in a melee, I'm very happy to have you have this weapon. The easiest thing to do on a pole arm is to close on it. Now, people can cross-check you with it. They can row it. A lot of things they can do. But generally speaking, if they're coming and swinging and I can close into them, I negate the strength of this weapon. My shorter weapon, if I'm fighting with a hand axe or a sword, falchion is going to be able to continue swinging while this gets tangled up and bound up. Right? We're going to make the assumption for this debate that you're not just going to get out grappled. Because if that's a problem, then we got a grappling problem. We got to talk about that separate, right? So you're going to generally want to close on a pole arm or close on a long weapon in a one-on-one. So if you end up one-on-one in a melee field, or one-on-one, I guess, in a pro fight versus a pole arm, versus a short weapon for some reason, but more like, you're in a melee in a scrum situation, and they get squared in with the pole arm. I always want to close in that pole arm, get into their, tight in them so they can't use this effectively. If I stay back, then they have the advantage. They can hit me long, and they can keep me at distance, right? If I'm trying to dodge it, that's tough. One of the things you can do, of course, is they're going to be slower to recover. So if they do swing and miss, it's a good chance to step in. I just don't like to take the opportunity to get hit by a pole arm. So I like to close it, right? The second area we're talking about melee and how to deal with long weapons, and this probably falls into the two-handed axes as well, is when it's not one-on-one. So if I'm fighting a person here face-to-face and the pole arm comes in here to my side or my axe comes in, it's going to divert my attention. So my goal with this is to do one of two things. And this is, one, I want to disengage if possible, if it's a 2-on-1 situation and I'm not confident it's not a good spot for me. I don't want to get bound up by somebody and get blasted by a polearm over and over again. The other option, depending on your role in the team and your size and your position, but again, for this example, we're all kind of even, is I might engage with both of those and try to close in that polearm guy while keeping the other person held so I can negate the power of his weapon, and I end up in a 2-on-1. If my team is doing their job on the other end, that could be okay. It could be okay for a little while. But what I don't want to do is let this thing blow me up while I'm force grappling someone else. So I'll spend a little bit of my time, in that situation fending off the guy I'm grappling with while I'm keeping my, because I'm a lefty, so my shield arm is here. I want my shield arm up in place where I can block that polearm, and I want to be closing in and negating their area, right? The other thing I can do is take that opponent and turn him in front of me. So if you're the polearm, you're going to have a hard time getting in there from holding a person in front of me. So I'm going to use them as a shield. That's basically the best way to deal with longer weapons from a simplistic standpoint. Either close in into them individually and take them out of the fight with their weapon, or you get something in between you and them. Or, like I said, if you can close into both of them and keep them tied up. The best option can also be just to keep your distance and stay away. There's no reason to engage that range necessarily. So if I'm fighting one person here, and you're the polearm, it's the camera, and I can stay out of range of both of you and keep you occupied on me and my space and focused on me, that means my team can go do other things even when I'm not engaged. So that's a simple way to deal with a polearm or a long weapon of any kind. Now, let's talk about the medium-sized weapon, right? So the medium size, or the short axe, or the two-handed axe, or whatever we're going to call it, but it's medium for this example. We have short, medium, long, right? So this is, depending on your team dynamic, I think this is one of the most versatile weapons in the sport because it does two things. It gives me real heavy striking power. I can hit really hard with this and do damage. Not as much the polearm, but it's a little easier to manipulate, and I can go faster with this, so I can get more shots. It's also not so long that I can't grapple effectively with it. I will often, if I'm grappling, throw my axe like this and wrap around somebody and use my grappling, or I'll throw it into one hand down like this, and I can grapple with people. I can use all of my faculties with a big weapon, and then if I step out, I can blast them, I can cross-check, I can block with it if I need to. It's a very versatile weapon. You'll see some teams run, Red Execution run 5 of these before in a 5-on-5, a 5-man, right? It's mixing a little bit because we're specializing, so you tend to see a little bit longer axes, 4-footers now, and then you have your sword and shield guys, and they work together. But in all things being equal, if there was no other variables, I think this is an awesome option. So how do you deal with this? Well, it's kind of an in-between, right? So this one here is a little harder to close on because the range is much shorter where I can still throw shots. I can still be kind of effective even a couple feet with this, right? As opposed to a longer polearm. But I still, if you crush it in on me, take that weapon away, grab it, hold on to it. Like I'll often just grab someone's axe and hold their axe while I'm fighting someone else. Those are options with it. You can also keep your distance a little bit better than this with this because I have to come in closer to throw those shots. You have a little more ability to step back. So with this, with any of these two-handed axes and up, what you don't want to do is let someone just tee off on you. So it'll happen, but you don't want it to. So you don't want to have your back facing, bent over, and just get blown up. So you kind of want to keep this as the in-between weapon, right? It's a little bit faster, a little bit more maneuverable, still does lots of damage, very versatile, and you're going to want to fight this similar to the polearm that you want to take it out of the fight, right? So let's then get into our shorter weapons. So one-handers. Your one-handers, your falchions, your maces, your one-handed axes. Now, these can do plenty of damage. If I get tied up and someone just gets blasting my thigh with this, or the back of my calf, or whatever, it's going to hurt. I'm going to be an unhappy boy. But one-on-one, these are less of a problem for me, right? So I will just often eat a falchion shot or try to block it, not care as much, right? Unless they really get a lucky gap or something, like it's just not as much of a problem. So to some degree, if it's a one-on-one, if you're paired up, I will not worry as much about this, or a hand axe, or whatever. I still don't want to get hit, but I'm less concerned. What I didn't actually bring out with me, which is more of a concern, is the punch shield, right? So if I'm here, my punch, bam, can be much more powerful than this shot, depending on the situation, the timing, and all that, right? So you want to think of it when you're fighting with the pole arm, with the short sword and a shield, they basically have 2 weapons on you. You've got to keep moving. So way do you fight that? I mean, it depends on, again, what your weapon is, but assuming that you're using something similar, it's going to be about timing. It's going to be about being a better swordsman. It's about being a better fighter, and you're going to have to be able to manipulate them with an equal weapon set, right? If you were to have the pole arm, I mean, you want to keep distance from this person. You don't want to let them close in on you, like we just said. If you've got a 2-handed axe, you're going to want to look for opportunities to strike. The reason that you'll see in pro fights, so one-on-one fights, knight fights, even when they allow mixed weapons, you very rarely see an axe versus a sword and shield, is the sword and shield is going to win. It's going to be able to throw more shots and do more hits and be faster than your 2-handed axe. Even, I mean, all things being equal with skill and all that. It's very hard to be that quick with that axe. All it takes is 1 block and you've got to recover, and this person's bop, 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 bop in on you. So that's the important piece. And that's really the overview. So that gives you an idea of how to handle these weapons and differences. If you have more questions, let me know. Want to see more details, let me know. Like, subscribe, follow, all that wonderful stuff. I'm the Woodchuck Knight. Thanks for watching.